Hi everyone, I'm Kevin Postreich from IBM. Thanks for taking the time today to watch my short video demonstration where I'm going to show you how crazy simple it is to bring an automated cognitive voice agent to your customers using the IBM Voice Agent for Watson service in the IBM Cloud. Now before we get into the demo, let me just take a few minutes to go over and introduce the service for those that might be seeing this for the first time. So I thought we'd have a little bit of fun with it today, and we'll work with a conversation around ordering a pizza. I figure everybody's ordered a pizza once in their life, and so it ought to be pretty simple to understand the conversation flow and how somebody might call into a pizza joint and order a pizza, ask about store hours, the toppings that they have, and the sizes that they can order. So that's going to be the demonstration I'm going to show you in a few minutes that's based on the Watson conversation and the additional services included with the offering. The IBM Voice Agent for Watson is an as-a-service offering on the IBM Cloud based on the IBM Voice Gateway solution. So it's going to enable your customers to have voice interactions over the telephone between a Watson cognitive agent and your customer, in this case, ordering a pizza. So with this, we'll be able to have a voice agent communicate in a conversational manner with your customers. And while the pizza ordering demo is quite simple, this solution can handle complex interactions that are traditionally difficult for an IVR system to do today. So one of the cool things is that the development team has compiled a series of samples that are available in GitHub. So you can go to the link below and you can import, download, and use some of the sample conversations that have been built for you to get your hands dirty with the solution. In my case, we're going to work with a simple pizza ordering demo. The architecture of the Voice Agent for Watson includes multiple components in the overall architecture for the solution. First off, the Voice Agent is based on the IBM Voice Gateway, and it orchestrates the dialogue and the conversation between your customer and the calling center. As part of the solution, we need additional Watson services, part of the solution. First, we need a speech-to-text service that converts the caller's audio into a text format, and that text format's used in the conversation service that then analyzes the text and then maps it to the various intents and provides a response back to the caller. And that response to the caller goes back to and through the text-to-speech service, which then converts the text response back into an audio voice that's then transmitted to the customer. Additionally, we need a SIP trunk, right, that connects your voice agent to the telephone network. In the case of my demonstration, we're going to use a Twilio SIP trunk, but in your environment you would have other IVR systems that you may connect to. An optional component in the solution is a service orchestration engine, or SOE. And this is a component that sits between the conversation service and the agent that allows it to go out and make an API call to back-end systems to bring in specialized content from perhaps back-end databases and systems for looking up information about the customer, policy information, and the sorts. So this diagram just shows an illustration of how the voice agent orchestrates the Watson services in the solution. So it's quite simple to follow, right? The caller calls in, asks a question, or wants to order a pizza, and then it goes through the voice agent with Watson service that orchestrates all of the components, first taking the speech and then converting it to text, and then going back, passing that into the conversation component, which then handles the dialogue about ordering pizzas, asking about store hours, and those kinds of things in our demonstration, and then finally sends the text back to a speech, which then synthesizes that voice back to the caller. So this is a simple illustration of what the high-level system would look like, where you have a customer that's making the phone call, and in between the IBM Voice Gateway and the solution on the IBM Cloud and the various Watson services that make up the solution is the Twilio SIP trunk. So now we're back to the slide, and I just wanted to point this out before we got into the demo that we do have a hands-on lab that will go into details about how to create the components for the pizza ordering demonstration that we have here today. It can be downloaded externally using the URL below. It also requires an IBM Cloud account. You can create a free account using the URL that's shown on the screen here, and it only takes a few minutes to do that, and you'd be able to run the demo and be able to implement the solution that I'm showing you today. Alright, so this is just a handy list of links to the documentation that would be relevant for getting started in terms of pulling down samples from the GitHub repository or reviewing the documentation and knowledge center for the various ways that you can install and deploy the IBM Voice Gateway or the agent service. Okay, well, now that you've been introduced to the solution and you know a little bit about where we're heading with the video recording, let's get into the fun part of it. All of the activities that I'm going to do in this demonstration is conducted inside of the IBM Cloud environment. I'm using a public domain, a public region in the IBM Cloud based in the United States. So the first thing I want to do in the demonstration is basically instantiate the service for the voice agent for Watson. And to do that, I would go into the catalog and search for currently, which is an experimental service that's listed here as the voice agent for Watson. So currently it's an experimental service, soon to be released as part of the core catalog content. Now to create one of these is very, very simple. We'll give a name of the service that I want to use, and then we would choose the IBM Cloud region that we would deploy to. In this case, it's available in the US region, and we create the service. Okay, so once the service is created, it's pretty handy. It gives me the steps that I need to follow to complete the solution, and the steps are quite simple. First and foremost, we need to have some kind of a phone number to call in through a SIP trunk. And in this case, through demo purposes, we would use a Twilio account. I have a Twilio account, and I have a phone number and a SIP trunk assigned to the endpoint for our solution. Now the solution defines the endpoint, the SIP endpoint that we're going to use, and then we would add an agent to this endpoint to tie into the conversation that we want to map to. So first and foremost, we need a Twilio SIP trunk set up. So let me switch over to my Twilio account and then just take a peek and show you what I've done. I've created a SIP trunk and I've given it a name. And inside of that SIP trunk is where I define the origination that's required, where I bind that SIP URL provided by the Watson service. And then I also have created and purchased a phone number through Twilio that I'll use to call in and access our pizza ordering system, right? So that's all. It just took a couple of minutes to do that in Twilio, but that part is already done. Now, the next thing we need to do is step 2, is we need to create the additional services that are needed. So we need a Watson conversation service, we need a speech-to-text service, and a text-to-speech service. And so let's go ahead and instantiate those services. Again, these are from the IBM Cloud catalog. So searching for Watson or conversation service and those kinds of things, I can find the Watson conversation service and instantiate a new conversation. I'll call this my pizza ordering. And then again, he's going to ask me for the particular IBM Cloud region that I want to deploy this to. And in my case, I'm going to deploy it to the US region where I installed the voice agent service. So once I choose the region, I go ahead and create the conversation service. Now once the conversation service is created, we'll have the ability to use the tooling to be able to either develop new Watson-based conversations or import conversations that you may have pulled from the GitHub samples or perhaps the pizza ordering sample that I have. And the import samples are just JSON files. All right, so my conversation service has been created, but I also need to get the text-to-speech and speech-to-text services. So again, I'll search the catalog, quickly create a text-to-speech service. Again, in the US region. Now, the text-to-speech and the speech-to-text services, once they're created, you need to define a set of service credentials in order to access these services. So service credentials are the user ID and passwords needed to access the services. So I'll quickly just create some credentials, and it defines some default user ID and password for me for that particular service. So that's the text-to-speech service. It's all done. Now I will do the speech-to-text. Following the similar path. You can provide your own names, use the default names. For my demonstration, I'll just use the default name. Again, deploying it to the US cloud region. And so see how simple it is to go ahead and get everything you need set up for these services. The offering makes it very, very simple to create the services, add your credentials, and get going really, really fast. So a lot of value here in just what we've done. Right. So now going back to the dashboard, you'll see that I have all of the services that I need for the solution created, and they're running in my cloud environment. Okay. Okay, so reverting back to my my voice agent, and we'll look at the steps that needed to be accomplished again, as we're getting pretty close. So what we've done so far is we've established a Twilio SIP trunk. We've created the voice agent service, and we have established the various Watson conversation and speech-to-text and text-to-speech services. Now the next thing we need to do is we actually need a conversation that's going to drive our pizza ordering system. So this is pretty cool, right? So look at the conversation service that we created a moment ago, and it has a built-in tool into the user interface that allows us to, through a graphical user interface, create the Watson dialogue and conversations necessary. So these are in the form of workspaces. You can create a new workspace and create your conversations from scratch. In this case, I'm going to import my pizza ordering demonstration. It's a JSON file. So the completed solution of how we would interact with the system to order a pizza, maybe ask about the hours of operations of the store, asking about the sizes of pizza or the kinds of toppings that can be ordered on a pizza, is all part of the conversation flow that's been built into the Watson service. Now, a cool thing here is these things are independent services. They're independent workspaces, and as such, the independent workspace has a unique workspace ID. So this allows us to bind our service to a specific conversation when you have multiple conversations in your solution. So very easy to tie these together. So now that we have all the pieces in place and I have a conversation, the next thing to do is just basically add the voice agent. And this is just crazy simple, guys. They make the service so easy to get going, you're not going to believe. So just give it a name. And here's where we'll bind our phone number from Twilio to our particular conversation. And so then it's going to ask me the type of service, and these are my conversation services. I have the ability to tie into conversations services that are deployed elsewhere in the system. I can actually go through a service orchestration engine that I briefly introduced to you earlier that would sit between the conversation and the agent to intercept and go to back-end systems and pull information for us from back-end systems. Then we want to know about the conversation instance. In this case, I only have one. It's my conversation pizza order, and it brought in the default credentials that it created for me. Now this is where the conversation ID that I showed you comes into play. If I had multiple conversations to choose from, I can tie in the specific conversation based on that conversation ID into my solution here. We do the same thing for the speech to text and text to speech. There's really nothing to change here. We created some default credentials and it's picked up those credentials for us in these two services. So that's pretty much it. The other thing that you can do is select the kind of voice that you want to use, whether it's a male, female, different American, English, French, Italian kinds of dialects and whatnot. So from that we create the agent, and he's going to bind that Twilio phone number to the agent that I just created. So this is the cool thing. In just a couple of minutes I've created an agent that is tied to a pizza ordering system. So what I can do now is I can go to my cell phone and I can order a pizza. So here I am on my phone.
Hello. Welcome to Watson's Pizza Palace. How can I help you?
Yeah, what kind of pizza toppings do you have?
We have the normal toppings: pepperoni, mushrooms, olives, peppers, sausage, chicken, onions, and beef.
And what sizes of pizzas can I order?
We have different sizes, including small, medium, large, and extra large.
I'd like to order a pizza.
Okay, please let me know what toppings and size pizza you would like to order.
Can I get a large pizza?
Okay, what toppings would you like on your pizza?
I'd like pepperoni and olives.
Thank you for your order. Your large pepperoni olive pizza will be ready for pickup shortly. Is there anything else I can help you with today?
Well, can you tell me your store hours?
We are open from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m.
I'm sorry I missed that. What time do you close tonight?
We close at 11 p.m.
Okay, I'll be down to pick up my order soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for calling Watson's Pizza Palace. Have a nice day, and please come again.
Alright guys, so that's it. In just a few short minutes, we've brought in a voice agent with Watson solution running in the IBM cloud, and to be able to demonstrate a simple yet fun kind of scenario about ordering a pizza. I hope you enjoyed the demo, and thanks a lot for joining. Bye-bye.